My mother's dad worked in the movies. He split his time being head of a scene shop and technical special effects artist for Lucasfilms. The shop was a loud, bustling, improper place for little girls to be, but people would welcome my mom every time she came because she was Shannon, Randy's daughter. Lucasfilms was, at the time, a busy Bay Area maverick in the movie business, with computers, handsome actors, and her handsome father. Women noticed him everywhere. Randy was the type of man that held a personal grudge against Harrison Ford because he could not drive a stick shift during the filming of American Graffiti, which meant that Randy, a cheap and available look-alike, had to do it for him. Henceforth, many a drunken conversation was had over dinner about how Harrison Ford was only hired for Indiana Jones because Randy was busy. After all, Randy was an alcoholic. He had been smoking from his early teens all the way into adulthood. Between he and his wife, substance abuse was common and led to numerous bitter separations and sweet reunions. This was a shortfall, but it did not ruin their children completely. Alcohol and nicotine did not hinder Shannon, the oldest child, from graduating high school early, marrying a boy from Seattle, having a daughter, and moving to Georgia. It was only after all of those things had occurred over a stretch of many years that her father's acrid, throat-stinging tobacco caused problems. For the longest time, they had thought the chest pain and wheezing were due to pneumonia. Randy, as the fates would have it, did not simply have pneumonia. It was lung cancer. For the first year, everyone was scared but hopeful. Chemo and targeted radiation, the doctors had said. At the end of that year, Shannon and her family moved home to California. Her mother was panicked and had begun to work more to avoid being at home. Her siblings were too young for something like this, Hillary barely out of high school and Mason barely in middle school. By the second year, the cancer had spread and Randy's death was imminent. He managed through the birth of Shannon's second daughter and was nearly normal for his first granddaughter's third birthday. In the 6 months after that birthday party, he withered away to a skeletal shell incapable of processing the world around him. He died on January 21st, 2001, surrounded by his family members of all ages. Randall Reed was the glue that held his family together. His family, the Reeds, drifted away from the family he had created and married into, descending into silence. His wife was not capable of parenting on her own, and continues to this day to be depressive and dysfunctional. Shannon continued to be a mother to her 2 and later 3 children, but, in her words, has fewer soft places. Her husband's company went out of business in late 2012, and in a period wherein her family faces economic disaster and possible homelessness, there is a hole in her life where her father would offer a place to stay, or a union job, or comforting words. He loved Shannon's husband and her children desperately, and without him the unknowns of the future become deep, unending chasms between the 2 cliffs of life as she knows it and life as she wants it to be. He was the type of man who sang about pretty daddies while he was shaving. He was the type of man who let his oldest granddaughter think she was stealing rolls of Smarties from his bedside table for all 3 of her years with him. Shannon only told her daughter when she was nearly 15 that he had left them there for her on purpose. Memories of his life are clung to desperately for fear of them floating into the sky like the smoke of his acrid, evil cigarettes. His death left the kind of aching, throbbing pain in the chests of his loved ones that over a decade cannot seem to ease, because Randy Reed was simply that type of man.